Welcome back to the 192nd episode of the Daily Flip podcast. And this is going to be part one. The reason is Joe Biden has just dropped out of the race. I recorded an entire thing where we're talking about, the speculation is out. Nancy Pelosi's coming for him. Joe Biden has dropped out of the 2024 election. I'm going to bring you that immediately. And then we'll have a part two, which was going to be the rest of the articles that weren't talking about the election that I will post tomorrow. So this will probably be about 15 minutes. That will be about 10 minutes. And we'll tack on the Daily Delight to that episode tomorrow. And also I'll do a little bit of a game segment at the beginning, but that's enough on that. Let's jump to his actual statement. The reporting comes from the New York Times, and I saw this pop up and I went and immediately asked one of my politically informed family members, and she confirmed it for me. Quote, President Biden, 81, abandoned his bid for re-election and threw the 2024 presidential contest into chaos on Sunday, today, caving to the relentless pressure from his closest allies to drop out of the race amid deep concerns that he is too old and frail to defeat former President Donald J. Trump. And he also put out a statement on social media. I'm going to read that entire thing for you. Quote, it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is best for the interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus entirely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. He also put out a second part of the post, which said, quote, today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party of this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do it. So obviously, and I'll talk about some of the reporting that I was doing from a Raw story earlier where Nancy Pelosi was talking about, hey, there's the future of the party and we have to be able to offer something to our constituents. And when we have an agenda, it's great to just say, we're going to do this for you. But people don't actually believe you. At least they don't have a real idea of how you'll be able to carry it out if they don't think that you'll be able to make it through the presidency. So that is something that he was absolutely dealing with here. He was dealing with the fact that even if he made promises, even if he said he was going to do X, Y, or Z, it doesn't matter if they don't think he can complete the presidency after the debate, after his stumbles on the weeks after. It has been something that has been in the back of everybody's mind, which is they don't know. They honestly do not know if he will be able to make it through the presidency. And this was kind of a shock and not really. The fact that the Democratic media actually started coming after him was a shock to people. And then as the tides kept coming and coming and coming and coming, they were sitting there saying, whoa, okay, I guess that this is something that's happening. I guess that the president is actually getting all of this extra crud thrown on top of his campaign, and they're not just going to let him skate by on this one. So this is huge because he also endorses Kamala Harris. He's not letting it go to an open convention. He's not saying, okay, Newsom, step on up. Gretchen Whitmore, step on up. Technically, he's just throwing his endorsement behind Kamala Harris. So there could still be an open convention. People could still argue that though she was on the ticket when they got nominated through the primary process, that no, we have to have an open convention because we don't know if Kamala is going to be the best option to actually win. The process is a little bit convoluted because technically there's a conscience clause that they were making a big deal about a week ago, saying that delegates didn't have to actually vote for Biden or Harris if it wasn't in good conscience of their feelings about whether or not Kamala Harris or Joe Biden could actually win going into a November election versus Donald Trump. And also everything that happened with Trump over the course of the last week, the RNC bump that he's probably going to get, even though people are ridiculing and saying that his last speech wasn't as good as it could have been, they were still extremely worried. And when he made that comment, and it was hilarious to see all of the talking after he made the comment that only if I had a serious illness. And then all the commentary came out and said, well, he's saying if God intervenes, if he has an illness, that there's going to be an issue. And then they started saying, and also he just happened to get COVID, the COVID-19. And guess what? Now that's the perfect excuse. I found those comments honestly kind of, I don't want to say aggravating, but the thought was, okay, you're making it sound more coordinated than it actually was. I think that honestly, the Biden team, after some of the reporting came out over this last week, they were looking for a possible off-ramp. And I will say, my prediction was wrong. I predicted after the debate that everybody would coalesce around him, all of this stuff would stop rumbling for a little bit, and it did for a hot minute. But Nancy Pelosi was behind the scenes, continuing to push, continuing to show Biden and his team the polls, trying to get out there and say, no, this is not something that's going to happen. You're not going to be able to beat Donald Trump. And if you think you are living in fantasy land. And she kept on pushing. And then you also had people from the other article. I'll leave the link in the description. Sherrod Brown came out and put a post saying, hey, Joe Biden should step down. And it was interesting how the progressives, there's a little bit of mixed messaging. They were sticking pretty close to Biden. And both of the stories that I mentioned from the previous podcast that I just recorded, Raw Story and Daily Cost, they're more progressive outlets. So they were sitting here and saying, okay, is it actually a betrayal for all these people to stab Biden in the back? Is it something that is going to be good, bad, or ugly for the party? Should we stay consolidated? And it's interesting that the moderate Democrats, the ones who always talk about unifying and consolidating, are the ones trying to upend the status quo in order to get someone new in. And the progressives, the ones that are pushing from the outside, trying to always change things, get someone better in there, are actually sticking behind Biden. I thought that was very, very interesting. So I do want to read one more quote from this article. Quote, Biden's decision abruptly ends one political crisis that began when the president delivered a calamitous debate performance against Donald Trump on June 27th. But for the Democratic Party, Mr. Biden's withdrawal triggers a second crisis. Who to replace him, and specifically whether a rally around Miss Harris or kick off a rapid effort to find someone else to be the party's nominee. The announcement by Mr. Biden, who is isolated with COVID-19, came just 3 days after Mr. Trump delivered his incendiary, insult-laden speech. Wow, that's not, matter of fact. That's a little bit of editorializing there, but okay, New York Times, you do you. Quote, accepting his party's nomination for a chance to return to the White House for a second term, Mr. Trump, who had been preparing for a rematch with Mr. Biden for years, will now face a different and as of yet unknown Democratic opponent with only 106 days left until the election day. So that's actually interesting to look at the matchup going forward. So one, I think Donald Trump, after his, he was trying to give a barn burner at the RNC. I think he may be a little bit sad that Biden's actually stepping on his story. But honestly, with the ridicule of his speech, the first 20 minutes, it's a constant talking point. The first 20 minutes, captivating. At least people that didn't agree with him could say there was something there. There was content to unify. This is what he had promised. And then the rest of it is bad. Maybe this is actually an opportunity to kind of just gloss over that and be like, okay, yeah, I gave a great unifying speech. Here are the clips from it. And then the rest of it kind of just dies off in the memory because it was just a normal MAGA rally speech, basically. And this takes over. Though Trump is probably sitting there like, really? Joe Biden, come on, you're stepping on my case here. But that's the immediate ramifications. The long-term ramifications are, one, they've already started making ads. There's no doubt that the Trump team has already started making ads against Biden. And the fact that they don't know who it is yet means when they hear this news, they do not know who they are able to make ads against. Now, they're probably going to start with Kamala Harris, but there could, like I said, if there is an open convention, it could be a Newsom, it could be a Gresham Whitmore, and I'm sure it could be a Shapiro from Pennsylvania. So and I even made the joke that it could be a Kamala Bashir because there was rumors that Kamala was actually preparing to put out her. She was actually preparing a list of people to be her vice president, and it's very interesting now that the Trump team has to reassess. They're like, okay, we don't know the landscape. We don't know who we're going up against. We don't know what ads we'll be able to actually run. We don't know whose record we have to look at and we have to lambast. And they've already made lots of ads. They spent money going after Biden's image. And also they have cast, as it was mentioned, they have cast this election, especially after the photo coming out of the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. They had cast this election as weakness versus strength. And the fact that Joe Biden goes down to a cold, and this was reporting from Monday from progressives to the right, that if Joe Biden goes down with a cold, but Donald Trump is able to get away being grazed by a bullet, even if you're going to go with some of the reports, some people are saying, well, it was actually the glass. There were 4 cops that were hurt by glass. And so it could be possible that glass grazed him. Even then, the fact that he got up after a assassination attempt, there was active shooting, and he got up with blood on his face no matter what, and he just kept on going. He said, fight, 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 believing that he was shot at. Okay, all these things, it still casts him as strong and Joe Biden as weak. So this is going to completely shift the narrative. And guess what? I honestly think some Democrats were looking at his choice for JD Vance and they said that was not the safe choice. That was the firm choice. That was the choice for somebody who believes he's going to win and believes that he is still going to actually be up against Joe Biden because, one, Joe Biden's numbers are so bad, but two, they had completely defined the race against him. And now I think if Trump loses, he's going to look back at the JD Vance pick. Like the Democrats are looking at it now, like this is an opportunity. We can get somebody else in and that that's not defined like JD Vance is, that doesn't have these pre-existing clips of things that they've said. And then again, everybody does, especially in politics. But I think that if Trump loses, you could look back to that and say they could have, should have, and probably would have, knowing this information, played it safe and gone with somebody else. I think it'll be very, very interesting. And this is coming from a conversation that I had with a family member about this, and it's interesting. There's no doubt that this is recasting absolutely everything. And of course, you're going to hear plenty of speculation over the course of the next few days. I think the next question is 25th Amendment, which is, I get the reason that the COVID-19 argument was actually really important is that this is a problem that is with his health. But even then, if the COVID-19 is enough to get him to knock out now, to step down now, if he's saying it's because COVID-19 or he says it's because somebody else can win, then maybe they have a good angle here. But I think that there's a certain level of speculation that's kind of, how should I say, baked in, where people are going to say, oh no, this is because he can't actually do it. He couldn't win because of his mental faculties, issues like that. That's why the health, saying that it was a health issue is actually something that's really important. So it protects him from being taken out of the presidency by the 25th Amendment. Because if it's the fact that he can't run for the election because of something that just came up and not the innate problems that he has, his mental faculties and things like that, his issues with memory, his inability to speak, then you can make a more coherent argument that no, he doesn't actually have to worry about not doing the job of the president and he should be able to stay in office for the rest of his term. That's why the Democrats had to provide this off-ramp to him. They had to do it in a way where it was actually his choice and it wasn't other people questioning his competency too much, because if they questioned his competency and they outright came and said to the people, he is incompetent, we can't let him be the president for XYZ reasons, look at all these flubs, then people would naturally ask the question, well, hey, if you can't let him be the next president, why can he be the president right now? Like what's going to change between November 4th and November 5th? What's going to change between January 19th and January 20th? Which is a fair enough argument. So when he said to Lester Holt, if it's God Almighty that comes in and tells him that he's out, he's out. And he said if there's a serious sickness or there's an ailment, something like that, and that was actually providing the off-ramp. The COVID-19, when it came out and all those people that were speculating, I did laugh at them, but I see now that I've had even just a few minutes to reflect and actually think about the 25th Amendment aspect of it, I can at least understand why Joe Biden's team would say, okay, hey, that's the angle that we have to take. So the 25th Amendment, it may be invoked, it may not be invoked, we'll see. So thank you for joining me for this breaking news. I'm going to have it out pretty quickly, so sorry if the thumbnail wasn't actually attached to it at the very beginning. Like I said, if you want to hear the rest of this, it's going to be about the Secret Service detail and how they were actually, it's also a New York Times report, how they hadn't supplied all the resources possible to the Donald Trump team. They were actually rejected some of them, but that's going to be out tomorrow. I actually will leave you with a daily delight, and that's because, this is crazy times. So I want to leave you with something a little bit positive. I'll leave a link in the description to a video of adorable Arctic fox pups playing and wrestling in Alaska. They actually have black fur and they're kind of, nipping at each other. They're playing around. They're very adorable. So if you're distressed by the fact that Joe Biden is dropping out, then go watch this video. It'll be adorable. It'll be so cute. You will feel so happy. If you're somebody that is elated by the fact that Joe Biden is dropping out, go watch this video, because then you can see something that's totally not related to politics and you can get your life out of it, because at the end of the day, politics is not all that we need to worry about in our lives, and everybody needs a little bit of joy. So go check out that little thing that I'll have there. It will be labeled Daily Delight, linked in the bottom. With all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Oh, wait, no, I take that back. If you want to check out the podcast, it comes out on Spotify, Pocket Cast, and Podvine. The links are also in the description. Also, the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post a Twitter tirade every Tuesday and Thursday. Now let's retry that. Stay safe. Don't die.